Hi, everyone. Welcome to Beacons of Balance. Here we are again, Wednesday, 11 o'clock every Wednesday. Come in and tune in. This is my beautiful, wonderful co host, Joanne. And this is our wonderful, beautiful guest speaker, Jess, will introduce shortly. So, watch this to the very end. There's going to be great, great information that each of us, all of us need. The population, we are living longer, aging, getting older. So, how do you want to live your life out? Do you want to be all crippled up and sitting in a wheelchair? No, 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 no. So, we're here today with the amazing Jessica Suomala. Jess has been a PT, physical therapist for over 30 years, and she's very involved in healthy activity for the ones of us getting older and aging. And she'll share with us some beautiful, wonderful insights to live our best, fullest life ever.
Well, my question is, now that Arlene and I finally hit 29 years old,
And holding.
and been holding forever, um, I want to know what we can do while we are literally just watching TV. And not that we do this all day long, like, we're both very busy. Are there any like exercises or things that we could use, like weights from around the house, to keep us in shape? Firm up
Yeah,
those gorgeous thighs.
absolutely.
And holding.
Firm up
Yeah,
those.
absolutely. You can even just use your body weight.
Oh,
Watching TV, you want to try not to sit too much, of course.
Right.
But when you do get up, or maybe, even give yourself the target of every commercial, if you're watching something with commercials, get
Mhm.
up. You can do squats, standing, you can do lunges. I mean, of course, it depends on your health and your level of fitness, and what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do if you have any injuries or ailments. Of course, we're going to talk to your doctor first. We always say that, of course.
Mm.
But you can get up, you can do squats, you can walk around the house, you can do heel raises where you come up on your toes
oh.
to work your calves. Um, Lunges or practice kneeling. Kneeling's something that's very important, as is squatting. I mean, we like to do functional movements where you're practicing the activities that you don't want to lose the ability to do. So getting in and out of a chair is really a squat. Picking things up from the floor should be a squat. A lot of us bend over, which is not so great for your back. But
Guilty.
practicing that squat, yep, exactly. I do it too sometimes, especially when I'm tired. But when you do those squats, those lunges, the kneeling, and that coming up on the tippy toes, you're working almost all of the leg muscles. So even just those few are a great place to start.
Are there other things that
Awesome.
can be done other than a full, like a squat? Is there an alternative that would work that area without having to actually?
So
You mean
you
the
can, well,
Theragun
let's
won't work?
decide. Is there a way to make your muscles firm without doing anything?
Right.
But even just tightening up your thighs. So if you put your legs out straight and you
Yeah.
tighten up those muscles on the top of your thighs, those quadriceps,
Mm.
even just tightening them and releasing and tightening
Okay.
and releasing strengthens them.
Oh, okay.
If you don't want to do a full squat, getting in and out of a chair, like I mentioned, is a really good modified squat. That way, if you need a little help, you can use your hands on the handles. But of course, you always want to make sure you're in a nice sturdy chair that's not going to tip over. It's not a recliner that's going to pop out on you. You would do that in a really good chair. So
You
those are
know,
options. You can
I
even just kick your legs out while you're sitting. Kick them
oh,
out.
that's good because there's many people that can't get out of a chair easily or move up and down like that.
Right.
Also, please think about when you're in a chair, like, or in a recliner or whatever, watching TV, that you're moving. Because I know when I had surgery done on my knee replacement, they had me pump my feet and
Ankles.
like this, going like that and up and down. That's good,
Yes,
right?
you're creating a
Yeah.
muscle pump to prevent blood clots when you're doing that after surgery. But even just to do that
Oh,
normally
okay.
is a good idea. Keep your blood flowing. When blood stays stagnant, that's when you can get into trouble.
One thing that I wanna, and this is for everybody because it doesn't matter what age you're um, on, whatever. If you're flying these days,
Yes, move your ankles on
you
the
fly,
plane.
Ah,
yeah, yeah, on an airplane.
Yeah.
So many
yeah. Good
people
point.
used to get up, to move, to go to the bathroom or whatever, and there's healthy young people that I know of, I have no cases that have gotten clots in some
Wow.
very serious condition. Anybody I'm always with on a plane, I always say, "Get up, move your or at least move your feet," right?
Right.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of
I
us
really
travel at
Yeah,
plane.
I heard of a nurse. I mean, here
Wow.
you'd think a medical professional would know this, which she probably didn't, and ended up in the hospital with a clot. Bad.
Well, there's
But
warning signs. Well, there's that. That could happen. But no, normally swelling, redness in the legs, tenderness in the calf area, especially, those are all signs. So if you have like severe tenderness or swelling out of nowhere, it's not a
Oh,
good
wow.
sign.
No, just what would be as people folks getting older and,
Mhm.
the population, whatever, it doesn't what are the common injuries that you find in your practice? That's
So we see a lot. After falls, we see a lot of hip replacements, broken hips, hip replacements. We see knee replacements. And honestly, that's not always from lack of activity. Sometimes that's from a lot. You have someone who's been running all their life and now their knees are worn out. But we see a lot of back problems. One of the worst back problems, I think, in the older population is stenosis, and basically what happens is arthritis takes over, sometime from, lack of movement and lack of moving the spine through its range of motion and doing regular exercise, and sitting too much. The spine kind of takes the shape of being seated. The arthritis settles in and it really almost it acts as glue on the spine. And then people start to lose the ability to stand up straight. They start to hunch over and they can no longer force that spine back up straight. And then the holes that the nerves come out of become compromised. So then the nerves to the legs start to fail and you start to get tingling, numbness, pain, weakness. And that's really sad because then people really lose the ability to stand up straight and walk. And then it's really just a downhill trajectory a lot of the times after that. So you really don't want to let that happen. That's the worst thing that I think I see,
Well,
with the aging population.
what's a great way to warm up? The same exercises that you just told us before?
You could use those. I always like to warm up even before the exercise and the stretches. So you go for a walk or you get on a nice slow little stationary bike ride for a few minutes. So get the blood
Get the
flowing
blood going.
first. And then
Okay.
after the blood is flowing, then you can do some stretches and just try to hit every joint. You could start from the top down or the bottom up, stretch your
Okay.
wrists,
I
stretch
remember
your
that from
thighs.
tennis. I
Yep,
remember that
yep, yep.
one. And
Yep, stretch your chest open, stretch your legs, if you can stretch your calves and maybe even your quads or your hamstrings. And then go back into the activity very slowly and gradually, whatever it
okay.
is. If it involves resistance, you want to start with low reps and low weights, and gradually work your way in. If you're playing like a racket sport, like I just said,
Okay.
get there early, walk around the court,
Walk around.
maybe hit a slow, after you stretch, hit a few nice lobs and then get into it. You don't want to be
Okay.
running in at the last minute and jumping in for your doubles pickleball game with
That's
no
what I was
warm up.
doing.
Yeah. And that's how you tear a calf or,
Oh,
whatever the case may
yeah.
be.
Just how would you recommend to folks if they've been sedentary, they're getting older, and all of a sudden they wanna start exercising? I mean, they say that the best of everything is really just moving and walking and getting outside
Yes.
and walk. Is it
Move. Yep.
that's the would that be like the major number one thing to do? I
Well,
mean,
honestly, number one, I have to say it again. You have to talk to your doctor
what
because everybody has a different medical history. There may be reasons or medications, that maybe prevent you from doing certain types of exercise. You want to make sure your balance is intact as well, especially if you're going to go out doing more than you normally would, walking or whatever the case may be. Um, we all have such unique medical history. So that's 100% number one. But beyond that, like I said, you want to start with those low reps, those low weights. And then once you figure out what it is you want to do, I would highly recommend working with a personal trainer or even better, a physical therapist first so that you learn proper form. Um, we do a lot of trial and error in PT or in personal training. We see what a person can tolerate, and then we scale up or back depending on their reaction to that. And I know that can be expensive depending on your insurance coverage or your pocketbook or whatever it is. But if you could just find a way to get a few visits with a professional before you go off on your own, that's huge.
Mhm.
Um, we didn't even let our own kids go to the gym, with our family membership until we went with them for several weeks first and made sure that they knew what they were doing. They were exercising safely. They were using the machines properly. And it really paid off. They're really great at exercising safely and properly. And I even caught them in the gym teaching their friends proper technique. And it's important because you see these kids trying to throw up 50-pound dumbbells and they're arching their back and they're an injury waiting to happen. So if you can get some guidance, that would be awesome.
That's very important because I think a lot of people run to the gym, and I know, again, for the older ones, we have the Y and there's silver
Great.
members, so people just sign up and you just go and you start using the equipment.
Mhm.
And, I mean, years ago, there was a place called Curves, and it
I
used
remember
to be
curves.
that you go around stationary, and I remember like, I was a big exercise person, ha ha. But anyways, I went and I thought, "Oh my god, what's this gonna do?" Because it looks so simple, and in between you did a rebounder, and I remember the butterfly machine, that you go like this, you expand out. Well,
Mhm.
they said if you did more reps fast, that you would burn more calories, so of course, I'm on board for that, so I'm like, I go home that night the next morning, I couldn't get out of bed. I I
Yeah.
couldn't turn, I couldn't I went to the I ripped the muscle away from my sternum. Oh my god.
Oh, God.
That took, it took a long time to heal.
And
So,
that's a
Yeah.
perfect yeah.
yeah, whoever's
Right, low reps, low weights.
Right.
listens to it because it's important. If you don't do it the right way, you might as well not do it, right?
Yeah, and it has to be gradual. I mean, we all do that. Like, if I've been bad and I haven't been for a while, I go and I work out like I'm gonna lose 5 pounds right then and there on that first day back. And then I can't walk downstairs the next day.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
you have to go easy. I do it too. I think we all do it and
Wow.
you get there and you feel good. So you're like,
Yeah.
wow, why don't I do this every day? This is amazing. And then you're sore for 3 days
You're
and you can't go
invincible.
back till next week.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I keep hearing about these
Mm.
and it shakes you and it's supposed to be good for it's supposed to be good for lymphatic drainage.
Yeah,
No.
so I don't do lymphatic drainage. There are therapists who do.
Okay.
Um, I would guess that it shakes the tissue around and it does get some fluids moving. I guess if you're in a standing position on that plate, the fluid would move downward. So and again, I'm just kind of
Okay.
figuring this out. I haven't seen the device you're talking about.
All right.
Um, but if that's the direction you want the fluid to move, maybe. But I would think you're trying to move the fluid back into the circulation, from the extremities back into the central circulation. So I'm not sure. I really should just say I don't know because I haven't
Yeah.
seen that device. And how do you
You
feel
have a
after?
you ever shake and bake?
I had it, then we moved and I lost the remote. We had to buy another remote, but anyways, I do have it, and it does really vibrate, and it does. Now, I heard from this was a doctor that I listened to online, and he said that it's actually good even for bone growth because they've learned that when you're vibrating like this, it stimulates the blood flow and it helps mend. I don't know, folks, if it's true or not. Entertainment purposes only, but I had
Right.
heard that.
I often
Yeah.
wonder what it
Yeah.
does to the I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
People use
Yeah. I
it
don't
for
know enough
weight
about
loss.
it.
They use it for weight loss too. I'll
Yeah.
Yeah.
using it again. We'll see. Yeah.
Wow.
I'll be
Maybe
talking.
we should start
Yeah,
we should
well,
Hey,
we should
maybe it
start
does stimulate the cells that create bone. I'm not sure.
oh
yeah.
wow.
I can't do that. Not with my back.
It's
Can't do
tough.
that motion.
But that
Once
is
you've had
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. An important point. The bone growth that you mentioned. That is one of the number one things that I would say it is so important to do strength training for is preventing or improving osteoporosis. Because like I mentioned earlier, when we see patients fall, if you have strong bones, you can sustain a fall and you might not break something. You might not break a hip. You might you might not do one of these terrible things. You might not end up in the hospital with surgery, all those things. So just by keeping yourself healthy through strength training, the weight bearing and the resisted exercise actually creates bone growth and stimulates bone growth and improves bone density. So I can't stress that enough because sometimes these injuries are life changing. Once someone ends up with one of these injuries, it really changes the trajectory of
Right.
everything.
When
Oh yeah,
just having a friend of mine last week, they didn't think twice. They just replaced the hip. So
absolutely.
gotta really watch. And now, especially with this winter weather, oh my gosh, with
Yes.
the
Yeah.
ice, it's so easy to just go flying,
Yeah. But you really want to be
So,
able to sustain those falls because they're going to happen as we get
right.
older. Our balance gets worse.
Yeah.
Our bone density can get worse. We develop other factors that make us more likely to fall
Right.
and get injured. So,
Mhm.
anything you can do to come out of that on the other side
I
is
know with me playing tennis for so many years, I think I ripped every muscle, especially the rotator is a big one, that
yeah.
we just blow out when we're playing tennis. But is there anything like we could do to strengthen that rotator? Because boy, it's like an old elastic in your underwear, it pulls out and it does not go back.
Yeah.
So careful.
And that is another common one. A lot of times we see the rotator cuff injuries more due to overuse, whether it be from whatever the person does for employment or whatever
Uh,
they've chosen for exercise. It's honestly more important what not to do with the rotator cuff. The three things I
oh,
always say to avoid are overhead motions. So you want to leave those military presses out of your workout.
oh, okay.
I always say try to keep your hands below shoulder level, whatever it is you're doing.
Okay. That's a
So,
good point. Good
mhm.
point.
Once the arm starts coming up above, the rotator cuff gets pinched.
Yeah, I feel it. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I feel
And
it.
every pinch is wear and tear. So you add up all those pinches and then you start to develop several fibers tearing, more fibers tearing, and then maybe a full tear. Um, so, yes, you want to avoid overhead. You want to avoid heavy lifting. And you want to avoid repetitive, whether it be scrubbing the tub or a racket sport. And I'm not saying don't do a racket sport, but again, warm up, make sure you're able to use both hands, make sure you're strong and you're ready for the sport.
How about, so if someone's playing a racket sport or whatever, how about post afterwards? Do they go home? Should you put, like, ice on it? Or there's a lot of that, not the red light
Biofreeze?
red light therapy.
Oh, red light.
I have some, pieces with the red light therapy. I like it. Feels good. It gets warm. And then, what's your view on that? Or do
Yeah,
you
I don't have a lot of experience with the red light therapy either. I think a lot of the studies for tissue healing are still, still out. They're still working on the research on that. Um, I know, it has been proven to help some things, like I think skin regeneration, possibly wrinkles. Um, I'm not sure about the deeper tissues, but what did you ask me before that?
well, post,
Oh,
play.
post, yes.
Yeah. Well,
So post, yes. If anything hurts after any activity, if anything hurts, rest it, put ice on it for 10 to 15 minutes safely, put it over a towel or a pillowcase or something. Um, yeah. And don't ignore it. Listen to your body always. So don't push through things. Don't keep going. If you have the opportunity to stop, stop. Say you're playing doubles. If there's someone else that can jump in because you're getting pain, do it. It's not worth it. I'll tell you, a rotator cuff
No,
repair
that hurts.
recovery, it's a year. And that's
It's
a year back to basic function, possibly not even racket sports.
I had
yeah.
shoulder surgery just prior to rotator, so it was almost shaved, so and
Yeah,
that
you don't want to get to that point.
I thought that was gonna be a breeze. I thought, "Oh, I could get through this," and I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Right.
It
Right.
was
But
not.
again, yeah. But being strong, again, it all comes back to being strong. So when our muscles are strong and in balance, our shoulders are back and down, our spine is straight. That is when your joints are in their proper position and all the tissues have the room that they're supposed to have to move. When we are either imbalanced, like tight chest, weak upper back, then the shoulder, or we can apply this to any joint in the body, is not in its proper position, and the soft tissues become like a rope on a rock in between those bones that are not supposed to be in those positions. So, strength, balance, posture, those are always precursors to being active in sports and being healthy and strong. They all go
Um,
together.
yeah, I was gonna ask you, I know when I used to do PT all the time, they would give me a roller and make me roll that on my IT, and I used to swear that was my worst. That IT muscle, it would feel like broken glass inside.
What the IT muscle is, Joanne, people won't know what you're
It's
talking.
those Did I get
Yeah,
that
it's
right?
called the IT band. It's really more
IT
like a
band?
tendinous
Oh,
tissue,
man.
but yeah. As long as you're not rolling over the bony prominences, like where your hip bone sticks out, you definitely don't want to foam roll
No,
over bones.
no,
And you
no.
also don't you might want to avoid foam rolling if you're on blood thinners or aspirin.
Okay, that's a
Yeah,
good
you could
point.
break blood vessels. And so, that you'd have to talk to your medical practitioners about
Okay.
before you got started. So, Ken,
Infrared.
if you've come out of that tennis game and your shoulder's really talking to you, it's
Mhm.
sore, it's pinchy, it's painful, you need to put ice on it
Ice.
because you know that you just overdid it. You're just coming off the court. Or even if you've overdone it at home, you clean the house and your shoulder is talking to you, ice. So
Ice.
whenever you know it's
Oof.
pain and you've overdone it or you've overdone it, ice. If things feel tight and you want to go through your stretching regimen, then go
Yeah.
ahead and use heat. Heat it up,
Okay.
stretch it out, etc. So there's no wrong answer. People will say to me all the time, "Well, you're saying ice and the doctor said heat." Well, it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish and how you're feeling in that moment.
What
Hmm.
about soaking in, like, the hot tub with Epsom salts?
Yeah, heat, great. As long as you're not already in a state of inflammation and you're not going to kind of perpetuate or increase that inflammation. And honestly, it probably wouldn't do too much damage, but you do want to address the inflammation at some point. You want to put ice on it eventually, calm it down, decrease inflammation. Ice constricts blood vessels, heat dilates blood vessels. So if
Mhm.
you've already got inflammation and you dilate blood vessels, you could bring more fluid to the area. If you're
Wow.
constricting the blood vessels, you're flushing the fluid out and the
Okay.
inflammation out.
Question, Jeff. Are you saying people, especially younger ones coming in, between the population now sitting on their computers, not literally sitting, but sitting in front of their computers and so they're getting that, my husband, that hump back, kind of thing. Their
Mhm.
knees going forward and also texting on the games with the kids and using thumbs, and that's gonna be the future. You're gonna see all.
Yeah, we already see it. I've seen a ton of teenagers with neck problems. Yeah,
It's
so
way too young.
we tell people to try to here's my phone. Instead of bringing your neck down to your phone, try to bring your phone up so that you can just look down with your eyes instead of your neck. The arms do get a little tired doing that. So if you're sitting in a chair, you could prop your elbows up with some pillows, or you could use a bigger screen, an iPad, something along those lines. One of those little, breakfast in bed tables, those work. It just depends on what you're doing and how long you're going to be doing it for. But in general, bring that phone up to you instead of bringing your head down to your phone. That's the most important. I do a lot of voice
Yeah.
texting too, and my thumbs are just fine.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've got that problem too because I'm an artist. I paint, all
Mm,
day.
mm.
So
It's
it's
just
tough
Yeah.
to bring that,
Yes,
the
try
good
not to be
page.
looking down or bending over it. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. And also for you as an artist, do some deep breathing. Let your shoulders go because you
Mm.
probably tense up as you're
Yeah.
working. Stretch your arms out, but always think about letting those shoulders away from your ears. Let them
Away
drop
from the
down
ears.
and bring that neck up nice and tall.
You know what's my best friend is that Theragun.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
work on that every night. That's my
yeah.
buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Yep,
Wow.
they definitely have their place if you can tolerate them. Some people don't tolerate them very well because not all those guns have a light setting, like
Yeah.
a mild setting. And one thing I did want to mention is the reason why strengthening is so important as we get older. A lot of the studies, the numbers differ. So as we get older, the muscle mass really declines, especially over 50. The rates, again, are, every study says a different number. But the bottom line is in, 20 years, you could possibly lose almost a third of your muscle mass. And that just, you're not going to be able to get out of a chair. You're not going to be able to get down on the floor to play with your grandkids. You're not going to be able to do a lot of things. So that's why the strength training is so important, because it can slow that loss or even reverse it. And that's another thing too. People think I'm too old to build muscle. That's another thing. Studies have shown that you can build muscle into your 80s and beyond.
Oh,
And I've seen
wow.
it. I've seen it.
That's great.
Yeah. I
That's great.
have an adorable patient right now. She had her hip replaced, and she has gone from not being able to go up and down the stairs into both of her daughter's houses, to now being able to do that, and to be able to get around her house, get herself in and out of a chair without using her arms to pull herself out. She's able to lift her legs against gravity. Some of these things she wasn't even able to do before the hip replacement. Um, so, it's not all from the injury, but to see her in her late 80s making these gains is really cool. And we see that a lot, but you got to put the work in. You got to, if you can't do something, you got to do the thing, or you're going to lose the ability to do the thing.
Yeah, I try when I'm
Huh.
sitting, I try to get up without I put my arms out or like this and I just pull myself up and down, you know what I mean? So thank
Yeah.
God I can still kind of do that. Not every day, but some days are challenging.
Do we have to eat more protein then as we get older to help build the muscles?
Protein is helpful for sure. You want to try to forego some of those carbs for more protein, definitely. Some of the numbers out there say eat your body weight in protein. So, if you weigh 130 pounds, you want to try to eat 130 grams of protein a day. And if you really try to do that, it's quite difficult. But, you just want to look at the plate. And I'm sure you've heard things like this before, but, the majority of the plate should be protein and vegetables. And then there should be a very small portion of carbs, and I
Right.
don't agree with going no carbs and, doing any of these. I mean, whatever works for you, but, to
Guilty.
have a balanced diet. Yeah, yeah, fruits and carbs to a minimum. Veggies and protein should be the biggest part. That's all. Just shift the ratio. You could still have all the
But
things.
my
Yeah.
theory is sugar and flour.
Oh, sugar and flour are the
Sugar,
worst.
that's the
If
worst.
everybody could cut out sugar and flour
Yeah.
but everything has sugar in it, even condiments. People don't even realize, and
No.
I don't even know why it's in there because why do you need that? It's crazy
Yeah.
when you start to really start reading everything, you know?
Right. Yeah. I just listened to a podcast, a doctor who was talking about the glycemic reaction to each food. And it's crazy. I mean, the amount that your blood sugar spikes and how the insulin reacts. And it's really bad. And even sometimes with foods that you don't think are that bad or that have artificial sweeteners, sometimes they still give your body that same response that can lead you toward diabetes. And diabetes is awful. That is another thing we see a lot of.
Mm.
And it's really hard once you get into that spiral of diabetes to get out, but it's not always impossible. If you have type 2 diabetes, you can slow that or reverse that with exercise and strength training. Again, I'm a huge proponent for strength, strength, strength. And I'm not, like I said, talking about giant dumbbells, etc. Just maintaining and improving your muscle mass helps with heart disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, arthritis. And now, not now, I mean, for years now, they've linked strength training to slowing or reversing dementia, cognitive decline. That's huge.
Okay, so
Mhm.
we're kinda almost wrapping up here.
Mhm.
What would you, in a nutshell, for somebody, like, just starting out or, like you said, always check with your medical professional, but is there, like, maybe 5 things to do or, that people could do at home without having to go to a gym that, you could use something around the house, even picking up a can or something, I don't know, that if somebody does, like, daily, for the strength training and that. that people could do? Because a lot of people are intimidated to go to a gym, especially nowadays, especially women. Nobody
Yes.
wants to be seen. They think they're too big. They want the right outfit. They have to.
Yeah. And as I get older, I really feel it's more about feeling good and feeling strong. But of course, we all want to look good too.
And then
So
some
I
people
get
can't
that.
get out of the house either. Do you know what I'm saying? Either
Right.
they're
Yeah.
on their own. We have siblings that, don't leave the house, so just things that somebody could do to start that you could share with our listeners.
Yeah. So you could use anything. I mean, TheraBands are awesome because you could really, what you can do with a TheraBand is limitless. Um, But like I said, squats are the number one. To be able to get up and down is super important. You can even add resistance to a squat by standing on a TheraBand and holding the ends in your hands. So that right there increases, you from just using body weight to using resistance. So squats are number one. But you also want the ability to push off of things, to push yourself up with your arms. So you can even, again, in a sturdy chair with a chair against the wall, a chair with arms, you can just push yourself up on the arms of those chairs and let yourself slowly back down into the seat. So now you're working those pushing muscles, the triceps, the shoulder blade muscles. So that's a really good one. That's two. Whenever you do any exercises or activities, if you can engage your abdominal muscles, and I'm not talking about crunching yourself over, just feel your stomach muscles and tighten them, right? Right along the sides, just tighten them. And if you're washing dishes, tighten them. You should still be able to breathe and talk, but do that throughout the day. You're driving the car, tighten them,
You're
right?
talking isometric?
Isometrics, you're engaging
Okay.
your core muscles. Yep.
Okay.
Then a fourth
Mm.
that I would say is pulling your shoulder blades back, pinching your shoulder blades together and down. That will help with your posture, but also the strength of your upper back. It's easy to say, stand up straight. Well, if you don't have the muscles or the flexibility to do that, you
Right.
can't. So to just
You
keep
need those
pulling those
core
shoulder blades.
muscles. Oh,
Yep, back and down, back and down.
wow.
So we've got upper back, we've got core, we've got quads and legs. Oh, and those heel raises that I
The
mentioned
heel
earlier.
raises.
Calf strength is also super important. Your calves propel you when you walk. If you lose that strength, you start to do the shuffle and hunch forward and all that. So, yeah, I would say those are some top 5 exercises. I didn't prepare that list, but off the top of my head.
You did really good, Jess. That was good. That was great.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else, Joanne, that you wanna
Wow. Just, I used milk cartons, with the handles,
Yeah,
just to lift them up or
milk
standing on
cartons.
a
You mentioned soup cans earlier. I've told
barbecue.
people to, do their bicep curls with some soup cans. Um, but really, you can even buy a little kit of TheraBands that comes with a booklet, with a bunch like you know, limitless exercises. YouTube is a great place to look up little workouts with a TheraBand or with small weights. Look up small dumbbell workouts and use some soup cans, like you said. Milk
Yeah.
cartons, yeah, but full, those are heavy. So you might want to start with those emptied out a bit.
my suggestion would be if people can't get out and they're doing this at home, I think you need, to begin with a partner or somebody you could have watch what you're
Mhm.
doing because we think we're doing it correctly, and I'm a big
Yes.
proponent of that. I'll be in the wrong position and you're going, "Well," and it's
And
not.
mirrors help. Using a mirror,
Yes.
looking at your posture in the mirror. I mean, even just, I think about posture all the time because that's my job, but even seeing myself in this video right now, I'm constantly correcting because I know how important posture is. So whenever I catch my reflection or I see myself in a video or what have you, I'm constantly correcting. Or as I'm at my computer and I'm starting to creep forward, correct, chin tuck,
Mhm.
be tall. But yeah. And you mentioned working out with a friend for that reason, but
Right.
that's another good point to keep exercise interesting. Try to make it social, make it fun. People love to play games, tennis, right? And that's why people are so into pickleball because it's exercise without feeling like it's exercise because it's so much fun, but also music. I love
Just
music, so
dance.
that's a big motivator for me. If I could stay at the gym all day with Pandora or Spotify, I'm a happy camper. I could stay there for hours if I've got my music or my
It's
podcasts.
funny you mentioned that. I came across something that it said, like, couples, like a relationship or whatever, if you dance every day, well, it doesn't mean you only need a partner, but if you're dancing and moving, it really extends your lifeline. If you're
Yeah. And if that's something you want to do with your partner, I know plenty of couples that exercise together. Also girlfriend groups or guy friend groups, you know. But I know for years I ran, and honestly, I didn't run because I loved running. I ran because I loved meeting up with the ladies and talking for an hour and catching up about the kids because they're all so busy. Or just, with our own lives. Like just it was a way to connect a couple times a week. So that's important too, getting out of the house, being social.
have you
Wow.
heard anything about this? Because I heard this a long time ago, and they did a study on it, that people that were, bedbound, okay, and couldn't get out, they had them in their mind, like they were running or they were doing something, and they actually measured their muscle, and their muscles did increase.
Wow.
It's how
Yeah,
powerful
the
From
mind's
that.
very powerful.
that's the kind of
Wow.
exercise I like when I go to sleep and I go, "Okay, now we're in the bottom
Just think about it.
And then you wake up, voila.
all toned."
Oh, wow. I do a lot of calisthenics in bed before I even get out. Like I'll lay on my side and do the leg lifts, 50 on each side.
Oh wow, good for you.
Joanne has to keep up with her young
I
grandkids.
gotta keep up with a 4-year-old, 10-year-old, and a 10-year-old, and
Right.
yeah, forget
I
it.
Good
wanna
motivation.
I wanna thank you just for being
Yes, thank you,
right,
Jess.
and I know Jess is going to be working on her own podcast that will be coming up.
Ooh,
It's gonna be on, living an active and healthy, vital life, right? With all the
mhm.
treatments and everything. And there all of our listeners in that, if you would like to, be in touch with Jess and ask her questions,
Mm.
and we'll link it down below, but I'll just tell everybody it's active and healthy aging at gmail.com. Okay?
Yes, and that's end spelled out.
And it
Active
is
and healthy aging. Yes. At Gmail.
and we will
Cool.
list that down below. And I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you for watching, listening. I always tell everybody, get out of here. People that are listening, I'm pointing to my head and getting to your heart space. Oh, one question I wanted to end with. This is called Beacons of Balance. It's about being in balance. What do you
Well,
do just to balance your life at the end of the day between your hectic life with your children, husband actually working as a physical therapist? What does Jess do for Jess?
So
yeah.
the most important things to me are getting plenty of sleep. I like to get 8 hours. But also I try to get up every weekday morning and get to the gym and exercise. I like to get out of the house to do that because it just is more motivating to me. And once I'm there, I can't stop early. I just keep going. But so lots of sleep, exercise at least 4 or 5 days a week. And also something for fun, which I love skiing. So our family has made that a priority. So we spend a lot of weekends skiing as a family, and it's been great. It's been really quality time for us. And, it was when the kids were growing up, and it still is. The only thing I wish I could add is a little more creative outlet. But I think I'll get a little bit of that with the podcast once I get that up and running. Yeah. So
So again,
Awesome.
8 to 10 with Joanne.
No, just hey, I always say that you only get one temple, take care of it. You know?
exactly.
It's true.
Exactly. Because nothing else matters.
Yeah.
If your body is not cooperating, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're a billionaire.
Exactly.
Health is wealth. You could have all
Exactly.
the money in the world if you don't
Health
have
as
your health
well.
and you can't move, forget it. And we want to extend our lives and be, you know, I don't want to be curled up and dribbling. I want to drooling. I want to be moving and full faculties. So yeah. So thank you again for being here.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you
you.
everyone out there. Thank you, Joanne. And remember to be the beautiful beacons of light that you are.